This is the Road to Alaska with Jim and Cynthia Spies from Wings and Wheels Alaska. And we also have Chris Walker with Overland Training Canada with us. He is the educational director of Overland Expo. So we thought we'd bring in the big guns here to help us all out. Chris is also with the British Council Forest Safety Council, and he does all the training for them. So we've got some great folks here. So tonight we'll probably go about an hour-ish, depending on how many questions we have. And basically Jim and Cynthia are going to go over what to expect in this year's Midnight Sun Meetup, as well as the journey to Prudhoe Bay and the journey to Tuktoyaktuk. And then we may also talk about, you know, the 2 to 3 day, I think it's a 3-day, Chris, is that right? Prepare for Alaska trip, where Chris will go over and help people, if they choose to do so, prepare for the trip up north to Alaska and Prudhoe Bay, and how to stay safe in your vans, in your vehicles. Okay, with that, let's take it away to Jim and Cynthia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome from Alaska. We are excited to be here with each of you today to talk about our second annual Midnight Sun Meetup. Last year's event was a lot of fun, incredible, and the people we were with just made it so memorable for us and made such great videos that we had to do it again. And this is probably going to be an annual thing going forward as we develop these routes and continue to make it fun for everybody. So as many people as we can get involved and attend, the better off we are. So we did already receive this year's stickers. So we are preparing, we're getting ready for the event. We're still coordinating a lot of stuff. Last year, we worked with several local businesses in order to provide places to stay and things like that. So we're still in that coordinating process, but let's go ahead and kick it off. This year's Midnight Sun Meetup is going to take place in Seward, Alaska again, and it's going to take place the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th of July. Now, Seward is a wonderful spot because it's kind of in the middle of the Kenai Peninsula, which allows you to go and choose your own adventure, is what we call it. Last year, the majority of people would come, meet up on that first day, and then during the day, people would disappear, do their adventures, come back that night, stand around the campfire, and tell all the stories of what they got to experience that day. So we're doing that very same theme this year. During that time period, people would book glacier cruises. We got with a group of people already, and we booked a halibut fishing trip. We do have 2 seats left on that halibut fishing charter.
What day is that?
Which is going to take place on the 10th for us. So if you're interested in that, it'll be first come, first serve for those 2 seats. And you can send us an email at wingsandwheelsalaska@gmail.com. We're going to split the cost of that halibut charter. We have the whole boat reserved currently. People also drove down to Homer, and Celia could tell more about that, but they drove down to Homer and they took a flight to Katmai and went bear watching, which was an incredible adventure for them. But probably half the group ended up doing that. They got jealous of each other. So that was a pretty awesome experience for the majority of the group. But like I said, every day, you know, there's ways to book things in advance. Just reach out to us and we'll try to point you in the directions of where to look. We also went hiking to Exit Glacier, which is right near where we boondock for that 4-day period. And then after Seward, we're going to head up to Anchorage and allow people to do their laundry, get necessary things from the big city. And hopefully we're going to schedule another group dinner for that night in Anchorage. We then go to Talkeetna. along the Susitna River, which is about 2 hours from Anchorage. So that allowed people to book. Unfortunately, the weather didn't help last year, but it allowed people to book flight seeing tours up to Denali National Park and see Denali from the sky. Unfortunately, it depends on the weather. And in Alaska, one thing that we cannot control is the weather. It changes instantly. So last year, pretty much the entire trip was full of rain and wind. And hopefully this year we get more sunny skies.
I thought our weather wasn't too bad.
It kept the mosquitoes away, which was a positive. After Talkeetna, this is where I changed up our route quite a bit. We're going to hit the Denali Highway. We're going to boondock pretty much the entire time, cross the Denali Highway, enjoy the sights that we get to see there. And then we're going to go to Gabriel Icefall. That's a beautiful little spot that we found 2 years ago with lots of space, but there's some incredible hiking there. And then from Gabriel Icefall up to Fairbanks, and then we begin our trek up to Prudhoe Bay. So that portion all the way to Prudhoe Bay is going to last until the 17th of July. And then we'll start working our way back south to Fairbanks, where hopefully we're going to coordinate with the meadery again to stay at their property. It was a fantastic stay last year. And from there, we'll head to Tok and into Canada to Dawson City, where we're going to stay for 2 days, because Dawson City is just an incredible experience that we would love to share with all of you. Now, Dawson City, you know, there's campgrounds available there. There's also some boondocking locations in that area. So everyone's going to be able to choose how they prefer to experience that. Distances and time periods between stops, I do have it mapped out. Our longest day is going to be 200 miles or 250 miles in the entire trip. But mostly it's going to be between about 100 miles and 200 miles per day. That equals about 4 to 5 hours of driving on several days, but most of it is going to be about 2.5 to 3 hours of driving.
You keep talking. I'll talk to Beth. Hi, Beth.
I have broken up our trip up the Dempster into 3 days. So we'll have a stay somewhere between Dawson City and Inuvik, possibly around the Arctic Circle area. We'll find somewhere around Inuvik to stay. Inuvik has resources available for us. It's going to mirror pretty much the trip that I took back in 2019. And then from Inuvik, we'll do a day trip up to Tuktoyaktuk, let you get your pictures next to the Arctic Ocean sign, dip your toes in the Arctic Ocean if you want to, if they still allow it, and then back to Inuvik. After Inuvik, we'll head back about halfway down to Dawson City, and then we'll end in Dawson City for those who are continuing down south through Canada. And for those who want to go with us back into Alaska, then we'll continue along the top of the World Highway through Chicken and Eagle and Glen Allen, and then back to Anchorage. So that is how we have it laid out currently.
And
All subject to change, but pretty much everywhere we have on here is all boondocking this time. And I'm hoping that we can keep it that way.
And we do have the times and we have it laid out. We'll have it available for you to, we didn't expect you to memorize that or write it down. So we'll have it posted or laid out for you as well.
We'll update our event tabs with all of our mileage per day and hours per day that we expect to be driving. That way you can plan your adventures accordingly on the places that we stay.
Okay, so the date to meet in Dawson City
is the 22nd.
of
22nd and 23rd of July will be in Dawson City.
That's actually going to be my favorite part, I think. And then the other question is, what is the general distance between fuel stops?
We will have plenty of fuel along the way. There, I don't think we ever got to a point where we were worried about, we didn't have extended tanks then, and all of us did really well with fuel stops.
So the general distance between fuel stops is
Somewhere probably 150, 180 miles generally.
the longest. I think you'd have to go is about 150 miles between what? There's only one spot where we have a long distance. Where's that? Coldfoot.
Up to Coldfoot, and then Coldfoot to Prudhoe Bay is about 220 miles. So that's the longest stretch that there is without fuel.
It looks like you'll have a lot of people going on this trip. Will that be a problem? We will have to find a way to ensure that we don't have too many people on this trip. We were actually just talking about how many we'd be comfortable with. We didn't know how many, we still don't have a final number as to how many actually are going to commit to coming with us. So I just read that question and lost my train of thought, Charles. Thanks a lot. So yes, we are going to find a way to narrow that down.
How long at a campsite? Typically, it depends on what time we're leaving each morning. I think last year we all decided to leave a little later. I think we left most campsites around 10 o'clock, boondocking locations around 10 o'clock. It took 3 to 4 hours to get to the next one. And then people were able to do what they felt like doing after that.
Are there different segments to expect people to join, or is it 2 routes up to Prudhoe Bay and the other going down south?
People can join wherever they want to join us at.
And last year we had people join along the way and then drop off along the way, and it was actually worked out really well that way. We would have we went to the Susitna River, and then we had somebody leave us there, and somebody joined us and dropped off. Mark, yeah. Yeah. How many campsites altogether?
Oh, well, let's see. 1.
Campsites.
Campsites is in campgrounds or boondocking locations?
Okay, so trying to understand the commitment, start and end dates and options, if any. So start date is?
Our start date for the Midnight Sun Meetup is July 7th. Our start date to our journey to Prudhoe Bay is the 11th of July. And our startup for the Dempster Highway will be the 22nd in Dawson City.
And how long at a campsite? We enjoy our time at the campsites. we usually get in about what time, how was the time working last year? It was, we'd leave at 9 and then we'd get to our campsite about
usually around 2 or 3-ish.
Yeah, we'd get there early. And
yeah, we generally get there pretty early in most places. So if you want to do hiking or bicycle riding or bike riding or anything like that, that's the opportunities.
Or just sit around the fire. And
we had a fire pretty much every day,
yeah.
Except for at the very beginning, we had a few burn bans going on, so we couldn't have fires for a couple days. But most of the time, we had fires going every night.
A link to sign up. We have been talking about that. We're working on that with Celia and John. And
one of the things that we're trying to gauge is how many people are actually confirming to attend. And that is a big deal for us because it also impacts our planning capabilities, especially like in Anchorage, when we're trying to set up a group dinner. Those confirmations are really important.
Before sundown, Charles. Yeah, that is something to expect. The sun doesn't go down, and our members last year were enjoying that. We didn't know when to go to sleep, really.
Which is why we did the later starts.
Do we drive much on gravel? Absolutely. Risk of rocks hit? Absolutely.
We'll spend a lot of time on gravel this year, even more time than we did last year. Last year we did do a lot of the Parks Highway. We went past Denali National Park, etc. This year, because we're doing the Denali Highway, that's another dirt road leg. And then of course Prudhoe Bay, that whole road is dirt except for the last 50 miles into Prudhoe Bay itself. Top of the World Highway is all dirt and gravel, and then of course the Dempster is going to be all dirt and gravel.
And when we convoyed, we did it in a way that prevented the rock chips, so to speak. We were courteous to the trucks coming towards us. We would slow down and pull to the side, which makes the trip longer than you might expect, because going up to Prudhoe, we had to be courteous of the big rigs. So what we thought might take 2.5 hours sometime took 3 to 4 hours because it slowed us down a bit. But that was avoiding rocks. But Chris got hit in Canada. Yeah, her windshield broke. There was no night, right?
Days without fire is good for Instapot recipes. I do Instapot recipes pretty much every single day.
It's one of the reasons why we get to the campground earlier, is to make sure that Jim can cook. All right. Okay, good. That's a great question as well. What shall we bring? What to expect? What should they expect, and what should they bring?
You should expect all different types of weather. Rain, cold, hot. I think Prudhoe Bay, it was around 70 degrees when we got up there last year. So you're going to have a wide range of weather. We had snow, we had rain. You want to make sure that you bring enough clothes for everything. Are dogs okay? Yes, pretty much everybody had dogs last year.
So back to what to bring, absolutely. Mud boots, bring those blackout sprayer windows, make sure that we all got extra tough boots, and we all
Yeah.
We all had the exact same boots by the end. Yes, extra tough boots. Thank you, Charles. Make sure that you're prepared for mosquitoes. They all brought head nets, which we never had even considered using before, but everybody had their heads and hands covered from the mosquitoes. And what else? Thermocells. We'll have a list actually of recommendations of what to bring. Okay. Let's see. Go ahead.
Dogs.
Mosquitoes. Dogs, they're encouraged.
Dogs are encouraged. All of our dogs ended up in a pack last year, and they were all running around with each other. One thing to know about taking your dog into Canada is making sure, of course, you have your health certificates. Everything is good to go with the vet prior to.
She must have heard you dogs.
She must have heard dogs. Here's Bella.
So bikes, will there be enough opportunity to bring mountain bikes worthwhile? What do you guys think, Charles and Chris? Did you think that it was worthwhile to bring bikes last year? I do. I think it would be, but you're traveling such a long distance. It's hard to say with your space, and I don't know, that one's hard to answer.
If you have them mounted on the outside, I think. But then you risk the dirt and mud and gravel, and so you'd have to have a really good cover for any type of mountain bike.
Yeah, we thought, did you unmute me? I don't know. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Charles, I unmuted you because I'm looking for
Dogs
those
on the
that actually
ferries.
came.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick, is that you?
Yeah, it's me. I don't know, can you?
No, Patrick.
Is my camera on? I don't know. Yeah, I think somebody's asking about bringing bikes.
No. Yeah, do you think it was worth it?
We didn't bring bikes, and we debated it a lot about whether or not we were going to bring them. And I'm glad we didn't. You pick up so much dirt on the vans going up to Prudhoe Bay, then it will.
Yep. Uh-oh.
Right.
Bye, Charles.
Okay, there you are.
Hey,
Good.
all right, there. Hey, yeah, it would
Bye,
have,
Helen.
yeah, we,
Oh, there you are.
Hi,
yeah, we thought
John.
we'd bring them, and I'm glad we didn't. And we really debated. We thought long and hard about it. And there's maybe on that whole trip, you know, to Texas and back, there was probably 3, maybe 4 times that I wish that I had, you know, the bikes, but there were probably 100 times where I was glad I didn't. So, yeah, each their own.
Yeah, that's a hard one to answer. I wouldn't.
Yeah. I'd be worried about them getting damaged.
Are we frozen? Celia?
Yeah, you're a little bit frozen.
But your audio is still
But
on.
your audio is still on. I'm trying to find all of those who came on the trip and throwing them in here as well. And I know someone did ask about the gravel and things like that, which Chris, I don't know. I know you're in, where are you, Bowen Island, and the electricity just went down. Did you want to like speak to the, about your preparation for the trip, that the course that we're putting together?
Yeah, I'm here in the dark, so I apologize, everyone. I don't know how well you can hear me, but I'm literally on my cell phone, standing one arm, holding onto a post to try and get cell coverage. So, the thought with the training was to equip people with some more skills, perhaps skills that you may not have come across, on how to safely negotiate resource roads, forest service roads, gravel roads, that kind of stuff. As a trainer, what we find is there's lots of great 4x4 information out there, but it doesn't always really address niche vehicles like yourselves with your vans there. So the BC Forest Safety Council's Resource Road Driver Program is designed for any vehicle, anytime, any place on any type of gravel road. So it's equipping you with skills to know how to use the radios properly, to know the dangers, the things to look for, the sight lines, emergency maneuvers, emergency braking, the whole 9 yards. So that's the kind of the core of what we're thinking. And then the other part is really down to the group to equip you with skills that you'd like to learn, be it tire repair, be it towing, be it vehicle to vehicle recovery, self-recovery, whatever it might be, to really give you some proper training by professionals, so that when you're on your journey, you have that little bit more confidence to make better decisions to hopefully get you in less trouble in the first place. Does that make sense? You did all hear me. You're not just laughing because you can't hear me, right?
Oh, I can hear you, just can't see you. You're in the dark.
I know, I wave once in a while. I'm still here. I missed that question. Someone, you're going to have to read out the questions for me because I don't have enough screen here.
Okay, somebody asked about CB radio or walkie-talkie handset or.
So we did the GMRS radios, and everybody had most people had handhelds. I had the full installed GMRS radio, and everybody could hear me better than everybody else.
Yeah, I think you did have the best radio, right, Chris? Yeah.
And so we talked about that earlier, that we had a Midland radio with a little antenna, and we're actually going to be upgrading our system to more of the power that Chris had, just because of the distances that we realized that the radio had to go across. We had people in the middle of the convoy to relay messages up and down. So that was one thing. Power we found, and the size of your aerial came into play with the radio systems. But most people are now getting, or have talked about having, installed radios dedicated in the vehicles.
And to be clear on the answer to that question, I think that's absolutely right. I think really CB is done these days, unless you're a trucker in the mid-southwest. Really, for most people on long distance journeys, it's recreational band VHF, and that's really what you're looking for. GMRS is awesome, but that's kind of in your house, in your garden. Midland is fantastic, a lot more range, but still not a patch on VHF radios. But I'm sure between us, we can make sure that we come to a concise answer, and we give you all an answer prior to the trip if you're looking at buying something or borrowing or renting something.
Did someone answer the, hi Dorai, What should one expect for cell phone coverage during our travels? Did we answer that already? Did someone answer that while I was?
No.
So we do have Starlink now, and the ability of Starlink is getting better and better, and it should be perfect come summer. They're putting up more satellites right now, so we will have internet capabilities. We can connect through our cell phone onto the internet to make calls, etc. But no, you will not have traditional cell phone coverage for quite a while during the trip.
Yeah, there were days when, I mean, we could have 2 days without cell signal.
Yes. You won't-
Um,
from Fairbanks up, you just have to prepare to not have cell phone service for about, it's a good
Until we got to Galbraith Lake.
Galbraith Lake for 3 days, and then it kind of worked there and then back. So just consider you might not have it for 3 to 4 days. I think, Charles, you were able to get through at Galbraith, right? If I remember correctly, but
Can I answer that question on the radios there? There's a question in regards to is marine band the same as VHF? It is, but it's not mixable. Marine band VHF is VHF, but it's on a completely set of different frequencies to land-based VHF. If you use a marine-based VHF on land, you will get slapped with a hefty fine.
Okay, what about drones? Are there going to be opportunities for drones?
Yes, I do recommend having your certificate for being a drone pilot in most places. But if you're doing it for recreational, you should still also have a Part 107 for your recreational flying. If you're using the video for anything else, of course, you need to have that full Part 107.
excellent.
Okay,
Yes.
any problems with potential permafrost thawing?
No.
Shouldn't be, unless something crazy happens. That whole road from Inuvik to Tuck actually floats on permafrost. I met the engineer for that, so if he got his math wrong, then you guys are into a whole lot of fun. But it might be a good story to tell afterwards.
And the haul road is all built on permafrost as well.
Yeah.
So
Okay, is the separate insurance required for Alaska? Are you talking about health insurance, trip
or
insurance?
car insurance. Or the lower 48 state car insurance works in Alaska. It doesn't, and some providers work through Canada as well. So if you're with the major insurance companies, they cover you crossing into Canada and also, and of course, Alaska. Health insurance is a different story.
Travel health insurance.
Travel health insurance because you're going into Canada and they don't recognize any of American, but in Alaska, your health insurance is covered. But we also took travel insurance for that time as well, just to be on the safe side.
And Dorai, I know we've had conversations before, but if you go onto the homepage at the Revel Club, the revelclub.com, and I think on the on the header, it says insurance. Well, it should say, or some places it should say insurance. Click on that and get Steve, your insurance concierge, to talk to about medical insurance, because we actually found a company that we're now offering through the club that has travel insurance, trip insurance, the medical evacuation, all of that for extended periods. You can even take out a whole year policy for full-time travelers and vans. So click on that quote or get a quote, and then Steve will give you a call. Thanks for pointing that. Oh, you're welcome, Dorai.
Someone had a question about dogs in the boat.
In the boat?
On the ferry.
Oh, on the ferry. Okay.
No, we travel with our dogs. Pretty much most people had dogs on the way, and we were thinking about potentially doing the ferry, but if you go with dogs, they limit the amount of time you can go see your dog. And it's like every 12 hours, you get 15 minutes for your pet to go out, go to the toilet, then they're put back in the van, locked away for another 8 to 12 hours over 3 days. So if you have pets, you need to think about that seriously. Also, the cars are staged next to the engine in those ferries, so it's very loud and disruptive and smelly. We opted then not to do the traveling on the ferry with our pets. Also, someone asked about start and stop dates. It took us about 14 days to get from Vancouver up to Seward, Alaska it took us 11 days of driving 6 to 8 hours a day. So 14 days, we would recommend you a lot just for time. We may have picked up a little hitchhiker called COVID along the way. So we slowed up.
British Columbia.
They slowed our progress a day or two, but budget on about 14 days to get from Vancouver. So wherever you are in the country, add that on. But we would do it again in about 14 days. Yeah, budget 14 days.
How long did it take you guys, Patrick, Beth? Oh, gotta unmute yourself. Or Charles, Don.
Hi, this is Beth. So what was the question? How long did it take us to get there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we crossed in Eureka and Montana, and we spent a lot of time in Canada. We went to Banff and, the national parks in Canada. So we took about 2 weeks or so to get to Alaska. I mean, if you didn't have the time, then you would just drive straight through and go. But we took our time to get there.
What about you, Charles and Don?
Yeah, we did the same thing. We slow rolled it. We took it probably at least 2 weeks, maybe longer.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of sightseeing and traveling in Canada, both on the way up there and the way back. So, I mean, you could be lined up, but why would you? I guess if you didn't have the time, but yeah.
So if you want to do it really fast, we had to do a really fast experience through Canada, and from Anchorage to Washington State took us 4 days. And that was because that was during the COVID period when we traveled down. We were limited on our time.
Okay, Dorai, sorry to repeat my question. How about vans being ferried to Alaska and back? Any details on that? Understand other questions will have to be taken before my second question.
For the ferry, look into the Alaska Marine Highway System, and that is the ferry from Washington State all the way up to Alaska. It typically takes 3.5 days to take the ferry, and you still have a portion where you have to cross into Canada once you reach the final destination in Alaska, generally.
When do we expect to be back in Dawson City after Tuck?
Right now, I was looking at the 28th of July back in Dawson City from Tuck.
Okay. How many of you out there actually watched all the Wings and Wheels videos on YouTube? Hey, Larry.
I watched a lot of them,
Yeah.
especially the ones I was in.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
We've got a
So
lot.
I will be filming the
follow-up.
entire time.
What's that?
I'll be filming the entire time. I decided I will be going on the entire trip.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes. So I will film it from beginning to end.
And then I'm going to, let's see if this poll thing will work. I just want to see who is serious about going.
Ooh, I like this, Celia.
Because I know a lot of people are thinking about it, but who really is committed? Can you guys see the polls going?
I can.
Okay, good.
I went back to video to see your hands under your chin going, who's going to answer? Who's going to answer?
Oh, That's because Beth is a panelist right now.
Oh, yeah. Beth's a panelist right now, so she can't. Okay, so I'm gonna end this poll here. I'll share the results. Does that mean I share it with all you guys? Is that what I'm
Yep.
doing?
Yep.
Okay.
85%, 92%, 85%, and 8%.
So just so you know, when you know how everybody had to fill out the form, just to give you some ideas of numbers on the form that everybody filled out to get the link to this webinar, 70 people said they were interested in the meetup in Seward. 60 people said they were interested in the journey to Perdo Bay. 64 people said they were interested in the journey to Tuktoyaktuk. And 43 people were interested in Chris's Prepare for Alaska training to get us up there safely. Those are big numbers.
How many are on this call?
Well, this one has 37 right now, but I know a lot of people signed up wanting the replays. So I will make those replays available for everybody. Let me see if I have any other questions that people might have asked us about Alaska. I know a lot of people wanted to know about the camping and where will we be camping, but we're doing all boondocking this time, right? Okay.
Yes, all boondocking this time, unless something radical changes. But right now, everything is boondocking.
We'll have a plan A and a plan B.
Patrick looks like he's having way too much fun.
I know.
I want to be there in Baja with Patrick.
You gotta tell them we're in Baja. Yeah, we're in Baja at Escapar, a big meetup, about probably like 400 vans.
They said over 700.
700 vans. And it's crazy here, but I've got some amigos with me, and I'm recruiting Wings and Wheels subscribers. So, but introduce yourself.
Hi.
Oh, RV, Russ and Vanessa.
Russ and Vanessa.
RV, come and Russ. So retired
Hi, Russ
military.
and Vanessa.
We'll be your security on the trip.
No, don't rely on me.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about food a little bit, because I know somebody had asked a question about the food. I know John and I, we prepared a lot of meals and brought the Dometic freezer, but we came back with a lot of meals in the Dometic freezer too. So food is available, and lots of food is available. They have Costco's there.
If they told you the truth about the amount of food, fuel stops along the way, then people wouldn't buy the videos or watch or read the books. We overcompensated for food, and it's always good to have food, but there was more food available than we thought would be available, and there was especially baked goods everywhere. If you love biscuits and pie,
Well,
Charles knew that
Hi.
one. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
I drove up with John and
definitely make sure
Celia.
that there's plenty.
I drove up with John and Celia and another person, Eric, and I tell you, we just stopped in restaurants and had some great food daily. And Celia's like, we need to eat the stuff we brought. We're like, nah, but none of us want to like deal with cooking it. So if you didn't want to deal with cooking it, there was always some place to eat.
Yep. Somebody asked, what's the maximum size of the group you're expecting to take?
We're gonna base it on confirmations and as we get closer.
We've talked about a number of around 15 being the max. That's pushing it a bit. We've also talked about breaking it up into 2 different groups. So it will really depend on the interest within the next, I would say, month or so, and then we'll finalize that.
And then what, let's see, with boondocking, how are the cassette toilets handled? Good question.
Yeah.
So we generally will find plenty of pit toilets along the way.
We
where
always did. We
we
never
could
had
go.
an issue.
Yeah, we never got to a point where someone was overflowing their toilet. Well, at least that they didn't admit to it. Are we
I just
non-rebel?
dumped it every day, every time we stopped, because, I usually go 3 days, but it was just pit toilet, dump it, pit toilet, dump it.
Yeah. They're all over the place.
Hi, sir. Yes, we are very non-rebel friendly. We had multiple vans show up at our meetup last year. We expect the same this year. We even had storytellers along with us. I would expect a couple of storytellers to be joining us this year as well.
Yeah, we're
Cost
very
a trip, we
diverse.
haven't placed a cost on it yet. So
I saw a van that looked like Jeremy's today on the side of the freeway. I almost stopped to see if it was him.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Jeff and Terry, hello. Watched all the episodes, still confused how we saw Celia and John in Moab before they returned from Alaska. we saw them in Moab and they're like, but I just saw you in Alaska. That's hilarious.
we should address that one. We haven't put a price on the trip.
Yeah.
Last year it was free, and
It's-
yeah,
It's going to come down to if we have too much interest or not.
The availability of potable water refills, not a problem.
Yeah, I think we had a pretty easy time finding water. The one time that most people had to gravity fill was along the Yukon River. But outside of that, pretty much everywhere had water that we could fill up with.
Yeah, we didn't fill from the Yukon River.
and Bill is correct. There's not really a grocery store once you get up to Prudhoe, but when we got up there, we were all going to cook, and then we found the buffet.
And
Yes,
wow, that was
wow.
good food.
The buffet, yes.
Everyone has to do the buffet in Prudhoe Bay. It was some of the best food, and the dessert table. I have to just say, it is a sight to be seen. And also,
Yeah, that was amazing.
the last 50 miles before Prudhoe Bay, they have put in this. It's the best highway I've ever driven on.
Smooth, just
Mhm.
just phenomenal. It's beautiful. The the lines were great. You could see them.
But the 50 miles before that, you can actually drive really fast on.
The faster you drive, the less bumpy it is,
Never knew you could drive 80 on a dirt road.
right? It's safer that way.
I don't know who was doing that.
How bad are the mosquitoes? That's what people want to.
Oh,
So it's going to depend. It depends 100% on the weather, the wind, and the rain.
right, yeah.
If it's really still air and it's hot and the mosquitoes at them, I never know the mosquito that part, but yes, they can become very, very bad. It is considered the state bird of Alaska, right?
But we thought that in British Columbia, the mosquitoes were worse.
Yeah.
And we actually brought not just the head nets, but we got one of those pop-up screens.
It's like a
It's like
shade
a-
tent, like a little tent, but it's a mosquito. And that was fantastic. But we found the mosquitoes worse in Canada than they were in Alaska. Well, we may have got used to them by the time we got to Alaska, that they weren't that bad, but they were nastier in, I thought, Canada than they were in Alaska. But we had a pop-up mosquito tent that we used quite a few nights. We also had full body suits that we actually used once, and that was in Canada at the hot springs. But other than that, most people just wore a head net when it got bad and just long sleeves and gloves. But we did use the mosquito net quite a few, or the tent, a pop-up tent, a collapsible tent, quite a few nights.
And we crammed us all in there and the dogs while we ate our food in this little tent. But it
And,
worked out well.
and if you use a thermocell, make sure you have plenty of thermocell because you're going to need it, all the way up to Prudhoe Bay. You're going to need it if you go along the trip to Tuktoyaktuk top of the world highway. Everywhere is just tons of mosquitoes.
And make sure you don't drive away with your thermocell sitting on the running board.
Lucy, since you're on this webinar, I have your email. I'll be sending out information about the training in Vancouver. So, or you can just look out for it on the website, therevelclub.com.
The Canadian campgrounds were like $5, $10 a night, $15 a night. We ended up paying in the US dollars. We just kind of went dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
And it worked. And one of the times the camp host came in, and he drove up, he said, "Hey, just give me $5 more." And we just did.
I'd say something about the getting Canadian money for gas when you get up into like the Yukon. Sometimes they run out of power or their system goes down. They can't use credit cards and they don't take dollars. So it's good to have a backup of Canadian money just in case.
Okay, here's a question people asked. How much, guys, do you think we spent on diesel?
For our entire trip, we
From
spent
where to where?
from
Boulder?
Boulder, Colorado, all the way back to Boulder, Colorado. We spent about $8,000, 540 gallons of diesel.
But this was when we were seeing gas prices
Yes.
at $7, $8.
$8. They were the highest.
the
Actually, they were higher in California than when we got to Pudo Bay.
Okay, we're not talking.
But it's like, yeah. So we spent about $8,000 in diesel to do the entire trip.
Yeah, and that was, the gas in California at the time was like $6.50 a gallon. And in British Columbia, the gas was cheaper. No, the gas was more expensive in British Columbia. But when we were coming back down through Alberta, it was like almost half the price.
Yeah. Will we be driving at night?
No,
No, there is no night.
it will.
The sun will not be going down. But no, we won't be driving at night.
We do like to get to camp early enough to enjoy the place that we're boondocking and to enjoy each other's company and to have fires and dinners and conversation. So
There's a lot of social time on this trip, and that was my favorite part.
Sunset at 1:30 and sunrise rose at 2 a.m.
I guess.
Let's talk about bear spray.
Okay.
Traveling through Canada, bear spray is allowed, but the bottle has to say bear spray. You can't use bear spray on humans or other animals in Canada because that's a felony, or it's a or misdemeanor, but it's a chargeable offence, and you can't use any other sprays on bear. So the bottle has to have bear spray on it, or they take it at the border. With traveling with your pets, I think Jim mentioned you need to have your rabies shots and all your certificates for rabies is the big thing. When we pulled up, we had a big German Shepherd who we actually had to say goodbye a week ago to. They actually looked at him in a pug to see if they were frothing or showing any signs of rabies when we were crossing in. They take that very seriously, but other than that, just your general vaccination cards. Was coming back in from Alaska into Canada, it was easy sailing with our pets. But bear spray, it has to say bear spray on the bottle. I spent weeks researching, trying to call people, and at the end of the day, they said, if it says bear spray on it, you don't have it sitting on your dash, you have it packed away when you cross into the border, but you're allowed to have bear spray for protection against bears in Canada.
and that's exactly how you say it too, John. You say, I'm using it for bear protection while traveling. Do not say that it is for personal protection.
Okay. How do we do laundry? Well, how many times did we stop at a laundromat?
I did, it was 2 weeks, and then I did laundry in Anchorage. Then we did the meetup in Seward, and then I did some more laundry in Anchorage. And then we went up to Prudhoe Bay and back, and I did more laundry in Fairbanks, and then did the 2 weeks home. So I did laundry every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we did it 3 times every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The same with Chris. Actually, we did it with Chris.
We did it with Chris. We shared quarters.
You stole my quarters. You never pay me back.
Oh, did I not? Oops. Will you be doing this trip every year?
That's the goal. Yeah. We hope to do it a little bit differently every year and then learn something new from it each year. And this year we have a few surprises that we haven't talked about yet, even to you and Celia and John. So we're not 100% sure, but each year we want to make it better. So yes.
I wanted to also talk about the Arrive Canada app. So if you're driving into Canada, you have to go through, there's an app called Arrive Canada or Arrive Can, and you have to fill out all the information on the app within 3 days of entering Canada. Otherwise, they can turn you around, send you back. And if you are going on the top of the world highway, they could send you back 40 miles to get internet service to fill up the app and come back if they're in a bad mood.
And also taking on what Chris says, you need to fill the app out every time you cross the border. We made the mistake when we went into Haida. We crossed the border to drive up to Salmon Glacier, turned around, we're back at the border 2 hours later. There was no internet, and they said, no, you haven't filled out the app. We said, oh, we just did it yesterday and you saw us cross the border. And they said, no, you need to, every time you cross, you need to refill out that app for every time you cross the border back into Canada from the United States. And there are places where you don't know that you're crossing the border and you're coming back in. And Chris just said, the top of the world highway, you have to do it when you have cell service before you get to that station, or they'll turn it around and it's a long 40 miles on a dirt road back to cell service.
Now, Bill, you said that the Drive Canada app was just canceled. Oh, Arrive Can?
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, maybe.
Actually, I'm on their website and it says it still has it for the government of Canada.
Oh, well, Steve. Hi, Steve. My understanding is that Arrive Can app is no longer required. I live right next to the border and I didn't need it when I crossed a week ago.
Oh, nice.
There you
Right.
go. Thanks for that. Did we discuss what the temperature is like? I mean, I know I had my big winter coat that I wore up there, but I'm always cold.
I bought in Denali, I actually bought winter gloves because I had breakdown gloves and soft gloves for mosquitoes, but not winter gloves. It gets cold. At night time, there was some snowstorms on the last pass coming down into Puto Bay. It actually snowed. It gets cold at night, so bring cold weather gear because it does get chilly. Even though the sun doesn't set in some places at night time when you're sitting around the fire, it's nice to have a big down puffy jacket on.
I ended up buying the rain boots at the hardware store in Seward, and I bought rain pants at Cabela's in Alaska to just slide over my pants because it was needed.
Yeah, we needed those extra tough boots, and we had this whole fashion thing going on. Oh, dog food. Did we talk about dog food?
Dog food. Crossing into Canada, you can only bring a couple of pounds of dog food in a dog food bag. But Canada's like America. All the dog food, most of the big box stores will sell American dog food. We put our pets on kibble just to get them through instead of having raw food and everything for the trip. And we could pick it up all the way along the way. And then when you reach Anchorage, you have all the Petco's, PetSmart, all of that sells normal dog food. So because you've got distances, we transitioned our pet onto kibble just to help make it easier to drive and not having raw food or other things that we feed traditionally. But yeah, there was pet food everywhere. But just crossing that border, they have limits on amount of food that you can bring, and it needs to be in a bag. You just can't have it in tubs or things like that. They actually have to see what it is. But we had no problems crossing the border. They didn't ask, but if they are having a bad day, we saw that they could make your day a bad day too.
And I know we're planning on, we took GPS points or did waypoints for every single gas station, restaurant, turnout, boondocking spot that we did from here to, actually from here all the way up and back. So we're hoping to clean it up a bit.
And so we'll make that available to you to have how and where to stop as you're getting through British Columbia.
I mean, it's not as scary as you initially think it is. There's gas stations, there's food, there's all of that.
Jeremy, what's
Jeremy! Hey, woohoo!
up, dude? What's going on, man?
Wow. Jeremy.
I mentioned you earlier in the call because I saw a van like yours broken down on the side of the freeway.
Wasn't Jeremy?
You're on mute, dude.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Jeremy.
There you go.
It wasn't me, guys. I swear. Good to see your faces
Man.
Jeremy, I think you got a bit of sun today, mate.
for about the last week. Yeah.
Oh,
Cabo.
I wish we were there.
Yeah. Wish you were too. It's pretty amazing down here.
Come
I
on
wish I was there
down.
too.
I got a spot for you. Yeah.
I just retired today. Maybe I should leave now.
Yes.
Yes, come on. We're going to be here for months. Thank you.
I'll see you guys later.
I start work again
See
on
your
Monday,
faces.
but I retired
I'll see you
today.
next summer, Alaska, hopefully. See you guys.
Come on up, Jeremy.
Bye.
Tequila? It's time for tequila?
So, as you can see, the interaction of everyone, that was in this group last year and how excited we are to see each other again this year. It's going to be the same thing throughout this event too. We're going to build bonds and relationships that hopefully continue to last forever. So
Well,
we
still
can't
all-
wait to see you guys all again.
Mhm.
We still all text each other on the WhatsApp group every day.
And we're making the journey back because of the relationships that we had last year. It was the relation where you will be going is incredible, but the relationships that you make, it's about the journey was so much more than we thought or ever dreamed of obtaining or experiencing. And, these are lifelong relationships that we have. As you can see, everyone's happy to see everybody who was on the trip. And so that's the joy of this trip, is the relationship, not only going to see things that are on your bucket list.
But at the end of the trip, Jim and Cynthia, we started calling them mom and dad.
Oh, where's mom and dad? Yes.
Because you guys took such great care of us. Amazingly, you took great care of us. So thank you so much for that.
And that's one thing with our daily routine that we will continue to do. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. Is we give a briefing in the morning before we leave. We give a briefing at night before we all go to bed and in the night. And I thought that was really helpful and something that we'll continue on with.
There was a great, combination of people being on their own, but also being together. And it was excellent.
It's magic. Magical.
Yes. And even when we were making our videos, trying to capture the relationships was a challenge. Putting it together at the end and showing the relationships between us it was a challenge. But again, I'll be filming the whole thing from beginning to end. So
Great. One last question. What would you change? What did you learn from the trip and what would you change?
yeah. You want to go ahead?
I'll let you answer this one.
What did I learn from it? We really went into it not knowing, with the whole choose your adventure thing. And it was one big adventure because we didn't know a whole lot. We didn't have any expectations. So now we will be a little bit more well planned, so to speak. If we can do that, we'll have a plan B and a plan C. And last time we didn't really. And we'll also have a lot more recommendations this time as well, because we didn't realize people would want to know so much from us, where to eat, where to shop, we thought, oh, people will just figure it out. And that didn't really happen. So we'll have more recommendations that we have to offer, because in the past it was just like, well, just go find a laundromat. Just
Go find the dumping sewer. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. But this time we'll be more refined and we'll have it more planned out.
Well, we thought it was fine the first time, so.
Well,
All right, any last questions? We're just top of the hour. Any last questions you want to add in there? Anybody out there? And we look forward to seeing you. I recognize a lot of these names. A lot of them are actually going on our Baja trip with the club next month.
thank you, Larry. Yeah. Yeah. You'll be down there with Patrick.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, again, the replays will be made available to everybody. Thank you to all our panelists here. I think Chris's power went off. So if anyone has any questions for Chris, just shoot them my way. Let's see. Okay. All right, everybody, I'm gonna end this.
Good to see you, Mom and Dad. Take care,
Bye,
guys.
Bye.
Miss you guys.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, Mom and Dad.